Greetings, everyone. Hi, thank you for joining us tonight on Turning a Moment into a Movement. I am your host, J Love, and welcome. We come here every Friday to talk about wrongful convictions. Gerard is my son. I represent the Justice for Gerard Movement. He's my son who was wrongfully convicted of a crime he didn't do, innocent, and he went to prison for that crime. And because of that journey with him and all the people I met on the journey, we created this platform called Turning a Moment into a Movement. So thank you for joining us. We want you to know our mission here is to bring awareness to the wrongful conviction of Gerard and all others who are wrongly convicted, over sentenced, mentally ill, medically frail in our community, to inspire, organize, and educate all communities about the needs to disrupt systems, policies, and patterns of the criminal legal system that leads to wrongful convictions. So, thank you for joining us this evening. We're going to have a very enlightening conversation with our panel. And so, we're going to get started. And first, I want to bring in because she's on the road, and I forgot that she was traveling, but she's here with us anyway tonight, Reverend Tia. Hey, Reverend.
Hey there, God bless you. How are you doing, Jay? I'm
I'm
telling
great. I'm
I'm hoping I'm not going in and out. I just got into a mountain, but it's okay. It's okay.
no,
Can you
you're
hear me?
doing good. Yes, I hear you fine.
Okay, I'm going to introduce myself very quickly. I'm so glad to be here. I am the founder of the Choice Zone, where your choice matters, and I do mental health therapies. I'm always working with individuals. Right now, I have been working with women who experience domestic violence and a whole slew of things. But my most important thing that I do, no matter where I go, I am active in the community because social justice is is a thing, and it is
Yeah,
important, and it is what
yeah,
I do because justice is now, justice is ours, and and it is our reality. And no matter where I go, what I'm doing, that's what I'm talking about. Whether I'm as the co-chair of Michigan Coalition for Human Rights or G100 Oneness and Wisdom or Transform and Love Community, no matter what I'm doing, where I go, I'm on the forefront because it's time. And like always, Jay, I joined with you because it's time to turn the moment into a movement, and we are moving forward. So I love you. I'm so glad to be here tonight and get this conversation started because I've been heated over the last few days, and I need to get with my people and hear from them, knowing that we have a collective consciousness that is seeing our true reality.
yes. And it's so cool that we have a expert on this subject that's gonna that's with us, that's always with us, that could, bring this into our awareness. So you be careful, Reverend.
Thank you so much. I will. I will. I'm not driving right now. Praise God for my niece who's taking deep breaths. All right.
All right. I see Allie is here. Hi, Allie.
Hello.
How are you? Introduce yourself.
Yes, Alexandria Hughes. By day, I am a researcher at Wayne State University. By night, I am a mental health human rights activist. And very much of why I do this is rooted in my upbringing, rooted in my family experiences. And yeah, it's rooted in community. Um, I would say I like to say I am not belonging to one organization. I help I go where help is needed, and I focus on my passions, young folk, um, youth, early adults, anything involving mental health, abolition, and criminal justice is where you'll find me. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you're here. Do you have, before we get started, You got an event coming up or something, right?
I will have that information soon. So I am working on organizing a event to bring awareness of the judges and everything that are running for election, and to
Yeah.
educate on the judicial election in general, because that part of the ballot is nonpartisan. Um,
Right.
and a lot of people don't pay attention to it, and they don't think about the fact that judges are elected, and they're also people that serve us too. And we got to vote for the right people. So
Yeah.
my event, that'll be in June or July. Right now, I'm solidifying a location. But yeah, you can expect me to be talking about that at the upcoming, the upcoming episodes. But we're trying to turn out young people and just whoever is interested in learning.
And
And it'll be some judicial candidates there as well.
yes, and that's a very, very good conversation to have, because we really need to pay attention who we are voting in as judges. So I look forward to that information and spreading it and being at the event with you. So, all right. And next, Attorney Mack, hello.
Much love and respect to everybody. Good to see you all again. All again. Allie, just got that green background there. Just so exciting. So exciting. I feel like Morris Day talking Apollonia. It's just so delightful. Alexander, so delightful. So delightful. So it's good. It's good. It's good to see you all there. Reverend Tia, you be careful now wherever you're driving. I think you said you're up in the mountains or whatever, or whatever. Don't get in no trouble, nothing like that. Because
Thank you. I'm doing right. I'm doing right.
Okay,
Wait,
okay,
but if I do get in trouble, I know who to call.
okay. That's right. That's right. Hey, look, I'm a phone call and a plane ticket away. Don't you never forget
That's
that.
right.
Okay. So it's all good. Look here. It is so good to be with y'all today. Dr. Hugo J. Mack Esquire here with you, as always. The only attorney of the 44,000 in the state of Michigan that did not parachute from heaven to be with you here today, but came up from hell through the power of God in Jesus Christ. So I'm glad to be here. I'm energized. I'm so glad to talk about this topic, because our people simply need to know what is at stake here and exactly what is trying to be done to us, okay? And make no mistake about it. What's going on in the United States Supreme Court is something that is being done to us. Okay? So, J Love, I'm proud to have the opportunity to be with you. And so, we've got to cut our presentation a little bit short, but to the tune of my good friend, Stevie Wonder, I just wanted to let you know, if you find yourself on Trouble Boulevard, push, pull, tow that hoopity to Mack Street. Went on Mack Street, pull into my virtual underground garage. Call the Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. The Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. The Freedom Line, 734-239-3118. HMAClaw.com is your hookup. HMAClaw.com is your hookup. HMAClaw.com is your hookup.
It's your hookup.
I and Stevie Wonder will take our absence, and we'll be able to get on with the program. Thank you, Stevie. Don't expect me to pay you no royalties. That's not coming. So there we are. Here we are. So thank you, J Love, and ready to be here and ready to get started at your direction.
Okay. Well, one thing I want to add, Attorney Mack, I wanted to just say again about our event that we were attended a couple of weeks ago at Oakland University. We were so busy, I didn't get any pictures, but I did get some from the organizer. He sent us some pictures of the event and the students that were attended, and they left a lot of good remarks about how they felt about the event. And I look forward to organizing another event with Matthew and Revertia again. And so I just wanted to put that back in there. It was a great event. And thank you to all the students at Oakland University and all the remarks and everything, the reviews they gave, and it was very Attorney Matt, you got some great reviews yourself.
Wow.
And so so yeah, so I look forward to we look forward to doing that again this summer, during the summer.
Great.
Yes.
Great.
So now we got that out. Attorney Matt, so all week we've been hearing about this absolute immunity. And I want to play a video so we could get started. But absolute immunity, we've been talking about qualified immunity. But now Donald Trump is asking for absolute immunity. So I wanted to, just in case people don't know what's going on, I got a small video from TikTok. And we can talk about that too, Allie, about how they're trying to strong arm TikTok into selling. Our government is trying to strong arm them. But anyway, I got these some informational videos, and then Attorney Matt, you could take it away. But just to catch everybody up, this is what's going on.
Donald Trump this week asked the Supreme Court for absolute immunity in his upcoming trial over January 6th. Let me explain what that means. Trump's federal trial over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election result by summoning his supporters to the U.S. Capitol on January 6th will begin April 25th. On Tuesday, his lawyers submitted a brief outlining their case that suggests Trump should enjoy absolute immunity because as president, he cannot be charged with the crime while acting in an official capacity. In their brief, Trump's lawyers wrote that the threat of criminal charges against a president would, quote, incapacitate every future president, adding, quote, the president cannot function and the presidency itself cannot retain its vital independence if the president faces criminal prosecution for official acts once he leaves office. His lawyers continue, saying a lack of immunity would put future presidents at risk of blackmail and extortion. Two lower courts have already ruled against Trump around the question of immunity in office. The Supreme Court currently has a 6-3 conservative majority, and 3 of those are Trump appointees. The prosecution, led by special counsel Jack Smith, argues that presidents must comply with federal criminal law like every other citizen, and that if an immunity claim were accepted, it would, quote, upend understandings about presidential accountability that have prevailed throughout history while undermining democracy and the rule of law. The arguments in this case are likely to center around what constitutes an official act as president.
So, Attorney Matt, maybe you, we talk about qualified immunity a lot. So maybe we need to know, what is absolute immunity? What's the difference between absolute immunity and qualified immunity and criminal immunity? Because all of these immunities.
Well, okay, the best way to answer those questions, and all of them will be answered when we forensically analyze the situation with Donald Trump, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, because all of your questions are involved in the case in front of the Supreme Court right now, okay? So let's analyze what that case is, and then we'll work through those questions and answers, okay? Is that okay with you?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
All right. Now, this case is entitled Donald Trump versus the United States. That's a very serious moniker, because what that means is it's Donald Trump versus 240 some million people, because we are the people of the United States. And we speak through our elected representatives. You know, we are represented by people. That makes us a republic. We vote for our representative. That makes us a democracy. All right. So, in behalf of the people of the United States, the Department of Justice has charged Donald Trump with a series of felonies. That's very important, because this elevates it to a national level as where it should be. Just as on a state level with a criminal matter, it's the people of the state of Michigan versus Hugo Mack, Allie Hughes, or what have you. That means our elected officials are bringing charges against us in the name of 10 million other individuals. So there's no bigger platform than the federal system, all right? There's no bigger platform, and there's no bigger court to have a platform in than the United States Supreme Court. Now, we're seeing history being made here in this life and time we're in, because This is the very first time in the nation's history that the Supreme Court has got to decide the issue of criminal absolute immunity versus civil absolute immunity. This issue has never come before the court before, and prayerfully will never come before the court again. Now, what the law says is you cannot charge a sitting president for crimes committed in office, but the president can be charged with crimes after they leave office, okay? And the reason for that is they don't want the president, him or her, to be hindered with criminal defense while they're supposed to be leading the nation. But they can have charges brought against them after they leave office. But the criminal aspect of it is what makes this case so intriguing, because if Donald Trump is successful, what that means is he can do what he wants to do criminally, and he has absolute immunity. One of the great things in the District Court of Appeals that Donald Trump appealed the ruling from was that one of the judges there said, so you mean to tell me that you're telling us that you could order SEAL Team 6, and SEAL Team 6, SEAL stands for C something, I'm sorry, Sea, Air, and Land. It's an elite Navy group, okay? They're the ones that killed Osama bin Laden, okay? Search, Air, and Land, I apologize. I can't quite remember the acronym now. But the point is that judge asked Donald Trump's lawyer, you could order SEAL Team 6, Mr. Trump, to kill somebody, and you're telling us that because you're the sitting president, you have absolute immunity from criminal liability? And he fumbled. He fumbled on the 3-yard line. Well, it would have to depend on the circumstance. But she wouldn't let him off the hook. She said, what do you mean the circumstance? I just gave you the circumstance. Okay, so he never could answer that question. He could just say it, well, it would depend on the circumstance and what's in the nation's interest, okay? So sometimes when a lawyer doesn't answer a question directly, that is the answer. And the answer is yes. Yes, he could. Yes, he could. And I want you to remember, this is the man that in 2016 said, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not lose a vote. Y'all remember that? Hopefully you remember that. Okay. That's what this man, so y'all, that's what I'm telling you. This bovine is serious. Is very, very serious. So the president cannot be charged while he's in office, or she, with a crime. But under the law, they can be charged. Now, on this issue of absolute immunity, there are some things that a president does have absolute immunity on, okay? There's some authority, power given to the president and president alone, which is beyond challenge, okay? And so before we start talking about the criminal aspect and absolute immunity, let's go through some of the things that the president does have absolute immunity on, okay? Now, one, he's the nation, or she, the nation's chief executive. The president and vice president are the only federal officials that are exempt from being able to hold an office where you can be naturalized. In other words, the president and the vice president are the only offices in the federal system where you must be a natural-born citizen. You must be a natural-born citizen to hold that office. You know, there's a man named Arnold Schwarzenegger that was the governor of California for a while. And there was a movement to say, man, he would make a great president, you know, kind of a moderate Republican is who he was. And he said, well, no, can't do that because Arnold Schwarzenegger is not a natural-born citizen. He is a naturalized citizen. So he could be governor, okay, of a state, you know, he could be a state representative. He could be a federal congressman. He could be a senator, but he could never be president or vice president. So there's absolute immunity or absolute power, if you want to call it that way, for the president and vice president in that regard. The president is the only one that's got the power to appoint a vice president should the vice president become ill or die or resign or be impeached. But they've got to have 2/3 approval of the Congress, excuse me, a majority approval of the Congress to let that person take office. The president has absolute immunity as the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces and state militias that are federalized. You may remember a situation where a governor of Alabama named George Wallace stood in the doorway of the University of Alabama and refused to let, I believe it was James Meredith in, okay, to register as a student. And what happened was President Kennedy, and it kind of sends chills down my spine when I relive this. President Kennedy federalized the Alabama state militia, all right, along with the United States Army, I might add, to go to the university. Boy, I'm serious, y'all. It makes me emotional. To go to the University of Alabama, prepared to push that man out of the way to, wow, let that black man register to be a student. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. So, I get emotional about that because when I think about, I was able to go into public schools and register. I didn't have to have the police with me or an army with me, but the only reason I was able to do that was because that man had the courage to say, I'm gonna come in to register, and I'm sorry, y'all, and so the president's got the power to federalize state militias to protect the rights of citizens of the United States of America. Only he has the authority, or she, to do that. The president's got absolute immunity and ability to hold federal officers accountable. The president has got a cabinet, Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, Attorney General, Secretary of Transportation, Secretary of Health and Human Services, Secretary of the Interior, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He has got the authority, or she, to hold those individuals accountable, and they serve at the pleasure and leisure of the president, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The president has got the power to pardon federal offenses, not state, federal offenses. One of the most famous pardons in the era relative to black people in Michigan was Donald Trump's pardoning of Kwame Kilpatrick, okay? Pardoning of Kwame Kilpatrick. So a pardon, as I'm sure you know, is a release of persons convicted of federal, not state crimes. So Kwame Kilpatrick was released under the pardon of President Donald Trump. Now, it's so important to remember that the power of the president to pardon only applies to federal offenses. It does not apply to state offenses. That's why the prosecution of the president and Rudy Giuliani and some other people down in Georgia, okay, for election interference, trying to tell this Georgia Secretary of State, find me 11,780 some odd votes. That's all I need you to do. That is a state offense. That's a state offense. Should Donald Trump be convicted of that state offense and be elected president, he cannot pardon himself from a state offense. Okay? He cannot pardon himself from a state offense. So the president also has got the power to grant a reprieve. A reprieve is different from a pardon in that it's a delay or suspension of carrying out of a sentence. So that's why when we talk about, we got a reprieve, well, that's a delay. It's a delay, okay? A reprieve for a certain amount of time. Once again, those are federal cases, not state cases. And the president has also got a right to commute a sentence to a federal crime and say, well, look, okay, you know what? You served enough time, okay? So I'm commuting your sentence from 30 years to 15 years, which you've already served. Therefore, you will be able to be released. Now, the difference between a federal right that a president has and a state right, which a president does not have, has got implications all throughout this hearing in front of the United States Supreme Court. Because you have to remember, Donald Trump is facing a classified documents case in Florida, okay, where he did not turn over classified documents. And, and the thing of it is, to show you the kind of hubris this man has, okay, they asked the man, okay, will you please turn over the documents? All the man had to do was say, sure, okay, sure, come on and get him. He said, I'm not doing it. Then they said, we don't want to have to force you to do it, Mr. Trump. Just turn over the documents. I'm not doing it. Furthermore, talk to my lawyers. The man suborned his attorneys to say, Mr. Trump doesn't have any of the documents you're talking about. Jack Smith, to his credit, said, I just don't believe you. So what happened? They got a search warrant and they went down to Mar-a-Lago. Not only did they find a bunch of the documents the man had, they've got evidence where he was telling people to move them documents around. In other words, to hide them, okay, from the subpoena. Now,
so that's a federal crime, right?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, absolutely. And see, let me deconstruct some of these other defenses while we're at it. Donald Trump is saying, as president, I had the right to declassify documents, which is true. But there was a protocol to go through declassifying them. Donald Trump is so full of hubris, he said, I don't need no protocol. I declassified them in my mind. That was enough. He said, no, seriously, that's what he said. I said, you know what? If Barack Obama, he couldn't get the first paragraph out of his mouth and he'd been impeached. Okay, this man had the nerve to tell intelligent people, I declassified them in my mind. That's it. Okay. And then he had the nerve to tell them, look, there's the Presidential Documents Act. And he tried to say, look, Bill Clinton had presidential documents that he just, had, and he kept them. So you are politically witch hunting me because I'm a Republican and Bill Clinton is a Democrat. But what the Presidential Records Act says, personal memos. In other words, if I keep a journal, okay, every day of what I do as president and my memorandums, those are my personal records. You see, Gerald Ford was a former president, okay, of the United States of America. He went to the University of Michigan back in the 30s. On North Campus, there's Gerald Ford Presidential Library, okay? I've been there. Allie's probably been there, Tia's probably been there. But it's a fascinating building, but it's a presidential library. And that library is full of President Ford's personal notes, okay? Personal notes. Every president has got a right to have his or her library with personal notes, but you cannot have classified documents. You can't do it. It's against the law. I don't care who you are. Okay. So what Donald Trump is saying, I declassified them and these are my personal notes. How are they your personal notes? Ain't nothing in your writing, in your handwriting. Right. They found this man has got boxes with war plans against North Korea and Iran sitting in the toilet, what a man's toilet is. Okay. Anyway, so that's part of the ridiculous defense that this man has to that classified documents case. But right. if he is elected president, because those are federal crimes, he would have the authority to tell the Justice Department to drop the case.
So there's a question, which is also, I was thinking the same thing. Blessed Love said, am I missing something? If he gets convicted in Georgia, how can he become the president?
Well, because the qualifications for president are a natural born citizen, 35 years of age, and having lived in the United States for 14 years. Okay? So there is no criminal preclusion from being president.
So if he's a convicted felon, he could be the president.
That's true. That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. There's nothing technically like in the law and the Constitution that says like having a criminal record is preventing you from running for president. It's things about age, being 35 years of age, natural born citizen, like he was saying. But it's nothing. The Constitution sets very few eligibility requirements for president, so it leaves that out. So the answer is yes, he can run and be in jail. He has connections to do so.
So interesting. Like felons have a hard time getting out of prison and getting a job, right? Just a regular job. But you could be the president with a felony. That's just
Well, yeah. You can be the president with a state felony and have a state record, and you can be the president and for the moment have a federal felony, but pardon yourself.
Wow.
Okay, and I'm telling you, that's the game plan, y'all. Pardon yourself. The game plan is string all this out so long with these delays and these motions and all this stuff till past the election, and then once he gets in office, January 20th, sworn in 2025, first thing you're going to do, kick out Merrick Garland, put another attorney general in, and tell him drop all the case in Florida, the case in DC, drop all in federal case with the quickness, and that'll be done within 48 hours. Okay,
I'm sure.
And that's like Nixon. Ford took office and then pardoned Nixon once he left. So I mean,
true.
So that can be done. Trump will do that. He's very strategic. And remember when he put Jeff Sessions as his attorney general, although he got rid of him, didn't need him anymore later. But like he does these things, or they do these things.
Right.
Republican Party. But
yeah. See, and the reason he got rid of Jeff Sessions is because Jeff Sessions allowed gentleman's name escaped me right now, but in the issue of the server for Hillary Clinton and the Russian interference with the election, working with Donald Trump. The man's name escapes me right now, but he was a special prosecutor that investigated, and he did find that they could not find any actual evidence that Russia interfered or colluded, put that way, with Donald Trump, but he did find Russia did collude with somebody to influence that election. And the gentleman's name, tall Abe Lincoln, crusty white guy. The name escapes me.
Was it Comey?
No. Comey was the director of the FBI. This is a special prosecutor.
I know who you're talking about. I can't think of his name.
Yeah. But anyway, the reason Trump got rid of Jeff Sessions, see, a special prosecutor is a different breed. Okay, while they are under the Justice Department, they're independent. Okay, so they're not under the direct control per se of Jeff Sessions. And what Trump wanted was a flunky. Okay, Trump wanted a flunky attorney general doing the investigation. And Jeff Sessions' big mistake was saying, I'm not Bob Mueller. That's it. Thank you, Bob Mueller. Thank you, whoever that was. Thank you.
Amithia.
Right, Robert Mueller. That's his name. So Robert Mueller was no flunky. See, and that's what pissed Donald Trump off. Okay, so Robert Mueller did his job, but some of the evidence simply was not there. But it was called the Mueller report. It was called the Mueller report. He said, while I don't have enough evidence to directly tie Donald Trump with the Russians, there was Russian involvement, attempt to influence this election. And Mueller made it real clear, by no means is this an acquittal, if you will, of Donald Trump. But what Donald Trump got on the air and say, I've been acquitted, to nothing there, smoke and mirrors, I told you all along. Well, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie, and you're a liar, Donald. I hope you're listening. You're a liar. The man didn't say that. Okay, so in any event, so what Donald Trump, or any president has got the power to control the members of his cabinet, and the attorney general is one of the members of his cabinet. The president also has got absolute immunity, if you will, and power in what's called the bully pulpit. Okay, that's a term coined by Theodore Roosevelt, and it talks about the ability to get up and make statements to the public. From the White House. Okay, that's a lot of authority, speaking directly from the White House that other citizens simply don't have. The power that the president has to make treaties with foreign nations. Okay, that they require 2/3 consent of the Senate. The Senate can't just make a treaty with another country. Okay, only the president can do that. But the Senate has got the ability veto that. You know, they had the SALT treaties, the Strategic Arms Limitation Talks treaties, okay, United States and the Soviet Union with Jimmy Carter, and the Senate has got to approve that. And the president also has got the authorities given him by Congress, okay? They have what's called the War Powers Act, and specifically in reaction to Iraq, when George H.W. Bush was president, and they made a decision that they wanted to go in and going through Kuwait, remember all that, to attack Iraq. There was the War Powers Act that the Congress gave the president to give him at the time, more authority to act and the extension of time in which to act. Because normally the president can order a nation invaded, but that's only for 60 days. And the president does not have authority to declare war. Only Congress can declare war. That's why after December 7th, 1941, President Roosevelt went in front of Congress and said, December 7th, 1941, a day which will live in infamy, okay? And he was asking Congress to declare war on the Empire of Japan, which they did. So the president's got authority to marshal troops and send troops, but not indefinitely, and he or she does not have the power to wage war. So those are some of the powers that the president does have, okay, in an absolute way. So I don't know if absolute immunity is the best way to put it, but those are absolute powers that no one can challenge the president on, okay? You want me to stop for questions now, J Love, or to keep going?
You got a question, Allie?
Yeah. Is there anything in terms of mental and physical fitness, are they being held accountable to that? You mentioned some things about Congress in order for them to say appoint a vice president, right? Yes. Congress has a say in that, in that action. In terms of their mental and physical fitness, is there anything that determines whether they are mentally and physically fit to continue to serve or to serve in general when taking office?
Yes, excellent question. I believe it's a 25th Amendment because this came up with Donald Trump. This came up with Donald Trump. I believe it's the 25th Amendment that says the president's cabinet, if 2/3 of them are willing to sign off and say the president is not fit, the president is mentally unfit to serve in the office of presidency, that person can be removed. Okay, so I would have to look at that particular section of the Constitution, but there is provision for that. And I don't know if you remember, but there was talk about that. But that's all it was, is talk. Because remember, the people that are on the president's cabinet are flunkies. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
I was just about to say he could just get rid of them before they all get together.
so you know, are flunkies. And what happens is the vice president has got to be in on that too, okay? The vice president's got to be in on that too. Well, Donald Trump despises Mike Pence, despises him, okay? Because while Mike Pence started out being the supreme flunky, okay, the man finally, let me be careful what I say here, finally got an infusion of testosterone and said, I'm not voiding this election. I'm not doing that. These state legislatures have voted to send the electors for the Electoral College. These people have voted, and Donald Trump, you did not win. You did not win. Joe Biden won, and I'm not going to tell Congress, do not certify this election, for which he was vilified and hated to this day.
Okay? Yeah, it was going to get him.
I was going to say,
yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say too, there was a question in the chat about whether felons could vote. I know that but 2 states, the voting age, of citizens convicted of a felon are barred from voting for a period of time. And then you're also barred from like the right to bear arms as well is barred. You're not able to do that.
Yeah, and you see the right to vote is a state issue. Okay, for example, in Michigan, people coming out from the penitentiary, which I can speak from personal experience. Okay, you've got a right for your rights to be reinstated immediately. I mean, when I came out, I just simply went down and got my driver's license and registered to vote at the same time. Okay, you know, I mean, of course, assuming you're proving citizenship, of course, and that's another thing. That's another thing. Look, I don't mean to sidetrack here, but let me just clear the air about something. This nonsense about people coming across the border because the Democrats are going to put them on voting rolls, that's a lie. These people coming across the border allegedly because Joe Biden wants them to vote Democrat, that's a lie. No president, I'm going to say it again, no president has got the authority to grant somebody rights to vote. Only Congress can give through, for example, naturalization, okay, through naturalization. The president doesn't naturalize anybody. Only Congress can do that, okay? So for somebody to say these people are coming across the border and the president is just going to sign them up to vote is a lie. It's plain and simply a lie, okay? Only citizens are allowed to vote, all right, and upon proof of citizenship or naturalization, either naturalized or natural born. So do you want me to proceed, J. Love, or field other questions?
Yeah, well, I just want to say this part, Attorney Matt. It seems like he knows what he's doing, like he has talked to his crew, his little cronies or whatever. Because if he keeps, pushing this and having these different proceedings, it's going to be after the election that he will be going to court, if he even goes to court, for all these charges. And once he becomes president, like you said, he can just, exonerate itself, most of itself for the state part. But the state part, what can they do? He's the president. Are you going to lock the president up? He's going to run the country from prison?
Theoretically, that's true. That's true. But see, that's why this case, the criminal case in New York, is so very important, okay? Because that is the only case, in my professional opinion, that will resolve before the election. In terms of the case that Donald Trump was arguing the other day in front of the Supreme Court on absolute immunity, I think what the court is going to do is kick the can down the road and say, you know what, we're going to remand this to the District of Columbia Circuit Court, and we want them to analyze private actions versus official public actions. And I will get into that in a moment. But the bottom line is, the only cases I think that are viable that can possibly be done before the election is the case going on right now in New York. And they call it a hush money case, which is another thing. It's not a hush money. People pay people to keep quiet all the time, okay? Men primarily have affairs with women and don't want them to talk and pay them to keep quiet. That's not a crime. That's not a crime. What is a crime is to use campaign monies, okay, funnel those monies through your private lawyer, or Michael Cohen, have Michael Cohen paid a woman $130,000 so she won't talk. And then you use campaign monies not only to reimburse Michael Cohen, but to give him twice as much so he can be paying his taxes. So in other words, let's say $130,000 is in a 50% tax bracket. So you not only give Michael Cohen $130,000, you give him additional money to cover the taxes on that $130,000, and have the testosterone to stand up in front of intelligent people and say these were just legal expenses. That's what the man is saying.
Okay. He admitted it last week that he did it.
Yeah.
On camera. And then he gave this money. He said that my lawyer said do it. He said I did it.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, you know what? He also had a bunch of lawyers telling him, you lost the election, dude. We filed like 65 lawsuits, dude, and we're like 1 in 64. 1 in 64. And the one we did win was a technical matter that didn't amount to nothing, just a procedural matter. So really, we are 0 in 65, dude. So you had a whole bunch of lawyers telling you ain't nothing there. Ain't nothing there. Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Attorney General
And
Barr.
on the
Yeah. So Attorney Mack.
and
So
on
basically, oh, I'm sorry. Were you talking, Allie? Can you guys hear
go
me?
ahead.
So basically, him being a criminal is not the question anymore. We're really saying he's a criminal. He's
Yeah.
a criminal. So
He hasn't been convicted of anything yet, so he is presumed innocent.
Yeah.
But what the man has been found guilty of civilly is raping a woman. He's been found civilly liable for that, and got to pay the woman, like, what is that, $85 million? Okay,
Yeah.
$85 million. So
Mhm.
he's been convicted civilly of raping that woman up in that dressing room or wherever he caught her at. Okay, see what I'm saying? So just think about that. Think about that for a minute. You have a person running for president, all right, that is civilly convicted or found responsible. Convicted in a civil case is really not the proper word to use. Convicted only really applies to a criminal matter, but found responsible in a civil case, all right? And my question is, where are all the righteous, wholesome white Republican women that talked about the respect due women and how women are objectified? And you have a woman here that was the pronounced victim of a sexual assault. Absolutely no support for her. Okay. So, but yet, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be gross about this. You remember in the 2016 campaign, they had women walking around with a T-shirt. Donald Trump can grab me by the anytime he wants. I saw that. What disrespect for yourself, So yeah, Reverend Tia, yeah, he can be convicted and be president. Absolutely.
yeah. So I mean, and I know he's still
And you,
we have to. He's innocent until proven guilty. But to me, once you've done the act and it's a criminal act, then okay, then you did a crime. That's all I'm saying. You did a crime. But go ahead, Allie.
I was just saying, even on the point of the states, I know we talked earlier about that, like what the states can do. At this point, it's beyond us, and I only say that because I'm thinking about Michigan Supreme Court. For example, rejected the case that was rejected the case wholly, that whether January 6th was an insurrection and whether Trump was engaging in it.
Right.
They rejected that. While Colorado did not, Michigan did. This was something going on prior to now, and that this is where it's taken us. So at this point, we're going to see what happens in November. Is where we are, and
Right.
and it can't be sent to the highest court beyond that, because the U.S. Supreme Court, it doesn't even have, I call them guardrails. It doesn't even have accounted like an ethics. It established the ethical code, but it's not binding. They're still there's nobody holding them accountable. So we can't even rely on that court to do anything, because they don't even have an ethical code that will hold them accountable to wrongdoing. So at this point, we're going to see what happens in November.
Well, yes, and Allie, along that line, they taught us in law school the Supreme Court is right because they're last. They're not last because they're right. Okay. So they are right because they're last. They're not last because they're right. So you've got 6 conservatives and 3 liberals. Okay. The Supreme Court has got a supermajority, not just a majority, a supermajority. Okay. So my prediction is they're going to kick the can down the road. They're going to kick it back to the District of Columbia Circuit and it's going to drag on, and the answer to the question is not going to be given in time for the documents case and the insurrection case, unfortunately. But there still is the state prosecution, okay? And by the way, they polled Republicans in one of these 50 zillion polls, and about 20% of them said, if the person is convicted of a crime, state or federal, I can't vote for them. Okay? So, there is some ethic. there is some ethic, okay? Okay. So,
Attorney Matt, let me play this right quick.
Sure.
If someone with those kinds of powers, the most powerful person in the world, with the greatest amount of authority, could go into office knowing that there would be no potential penalty for committing crimes, I'm trying to understand what the disincentive is from turning the Oval Office into, the seat of criminal activity in this country. If the potential for criminal liability is taken off the table, wouldn't there be a significant risk that future presidents would be emboldened to commit crimes with abandon while they're in office? It's right now the fact that we're having this debate because OLC has said that presidents might be prosecuted. Presidents from the beginning of time have understood that that's a possibility. That might be what has kept this office from turning into the kind of crime center that I'm envisioning. But once we say, no criminal liability, Mr. President, you can do whatever you want, I'm worried that we would have a worse problem than the problem of the president feeling constrained to follow the law while he's in office.
Wow. She said turn it into a criminal center if you say you say, hey, okay, Mr. President, you have absolute immunity.
Well, yeah, and first of all, she's right. Okay. And I want to give you guys some quotes. Okay, some quotes. Okay. In 1982, a man by the name of Richard Nixon said, if the president does it, it's not against the law. Okay? If the president does it, it's not against the law. Okay? I told you about 2016, what Donald Trump said. He could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and he wouldn't lose a vote. Okay? So my statement to you is, when you look at what Nixon said, a crook, what Donald Trump said, a crook, okay, and you put that next to what a man named Theodore Roosevelt, what he said, no man is above the law, okay? No man is above the law. So you got a statement from a president, Nixon, that says, if the president does it, it's not a crime. And you've got a person who ended up being president, Donald Trump, saying, I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody and not lose a vote. And before all them, you had a president named Theodore Roosevelt that said no man is above the law. So what President Roosevelt said does not jibe with what President Trump and what President Nixon said, okay? So somebody lying, y'all. Somebody lying, okay? So moving on now, getting to the crux of what Donald Trump is trying to say. What Donald Trump is saying, that he's got absolute immunity from civil or criminal liability, okay, because he is the president, and what he did is an official act. The way to look at the ignorance of that statement is that, and it's kind of silly, okay? He's trying to act as if there's some kind of alter ego that he has, kind of like a Bruce Wayne and Batman. That's a good example. A Bruce Wayne and Batman kind of dynamic, okay?
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to say when Bruce Wayne stubs his toe, Batman don't feel it because they're two separate entities, and that he can, like a chameleon, change from one to the other. So what he's saying is literally every word that comes out of my mouth because I was the president is an official statement. Do you know how silly that is?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know actually the badass silly that is to say something like that to intelligent people? That's what the man is saying. That's why the man said, you can't charge me with having classified documents. I declassified all them documents in my mind. so hey, look here. I'll say this. This man is a pimp extraordinaire, y'all.
Physical, mental fitness. That's all I'm gonna say.
Look. You're right, Allie. The man is a pimp extraordinaire. No, he is. You know, don't never stereotype no black man ever in life again with a pimp. Put that man's picture in the dictionary on the definition of pimp. The man is a pimp extraordinaire. Okay, and so anyway, so that's what he's saying. And so his argument in front of the Supreme Court is, hey, look, I need to have absolute immunity from criminal prosecution. And by the way, when he talks absolutely from criminal prosecution, what people need to understand, he's not just talking about federal prosecution. Okay, he's talking about state prosecution.
Yeah.
He's talking state prosecution, which includes the case that's going on right now in New York and the case that will hopefully within the next month or so or 2 months go on in Georgia. Okay, because what he's saying is that the president cannot be hindered by criminal prosecutions. And he's got the nerve to say this, y'all. Dig this. Let me show you the pimp hand this man is laying down. This man has got the nerve to tell the Supreme Court, look, the only way y'all could ever hold me accountable for a criminal act, first of all, I got to be impeached. Second, I got to be convicted. If I'm impeached and convicted for whatever it is you're basing your criminal act on, once I'm out of office, yeah, you might come get me then. So that's what he's saying. He's saying unless an impeachment is not a conviction, by the way. An impeachment is like an indictment, okay? So, you know, Donald Trump was impeached twice, but he was acquitted twice also. Okay? So, you know, Bill Clinton was impeached. Yes, he was. But he was acquitted in the Senate. Okay, because they didn't have 2/3 vote to convict him. So what Donald Trump's lawyer is saying, Donald Trump, although he was impeached twice, he was never convicted. Therefore, there is no basis to bring any kind of criminal charge against him now. That's not found anywhere in the Constitution. But what is unfortunate about those impeachments, because if those senators had the testosterone level enough to not only impeach him, but convict Donald Trump, he could never run for federal office. That's one of the consequences of being found guilty by the Senate after an impeachment. You can't hold federal office. But because he was acquitted, not found responsible, he can run for president, which is exactly what he's doing right now. So another part of his defense is, hey, look, even if you say my statements like to Ben Roethlisberger or, you know, the Secretary of State down in Georgia, even if you say those were civil, in other words, not official, not in my official capacity, because remember now, the man is saying every word that comes out of his mouth is official. You got to understand that, okay? So even if you think that, I need to be immune from civil liability because presidents cannot be bothered with anybody who wants to sue them in a civil matter, okay? Even after they get out of office, because that would have a chilling effect where presidents will always be looking over their shoulder, scared to act because they think somebody's going to try to bring a criminal charge against me or somebody's going to sue me when I get out of office. Well, that gets us back into the whole qualified immunity situation in Michigan. Because that's the same rationale they use and the same rationale Uncle Tim Scott from South Carolina used in saying, we cannot have qualified immunity on a federal level because it's going to chill too many police officers, and they're not going to be able to do their job, scared of being sued. So that's
What about? Oh, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what about Snyder? Why he didn't have qualified absolute immunity?
well, look. You notice the charge against Snyder was dropped. Did you know that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all part of it.
He was
J-Lo.
no longer governor.
Yeah, but I mean, he was no longer governor. But the big issue, the big issue in that was, look, I was acting in my official capacity. All right, you trying to come against me for acts that I was lawfully empowered to do under the law, because remember, Snyder was the one with all that emergency manager stuff. You know that, right? I mean, he's the one behind all that. So. It's rare, if ever, unless a person is impeached successfully, that you will find any kind of liability, civil or criminal, that is going to attach to them, J-Love. Mm-hmm. That's why they're having the trouble now trying to hold those teachers at Oxford High School and the principal accountable. It's qualified immunity.
You know what? Just a comment in the chat. There was someone asking, was Trump still president during January 6th? He was, because the president that's elected, which was Biden, that's why I say Burden. God, it feels like that sometimes. Biden didn't take office until January 20th. That's when every president takes office federally.
That's true.
Trump was still technically the sitting president, and he was claiming he didn't lose. It was that whole thing. And January 6th happened.
That's true.
So yeah, he was still there. This is when it was all going down.
Right, right. And see, and that's part of the election interference charge against him, was that he was telling people, be sure to be there. It's going to be wild, and telling them people to go on up to the Capitol. Yeah, you notice his punk behind didn't go with him though. You notice that, don't you? He sicked them people up there. He got his dump truck behind in one of them big cars and drove on back and let them flunkies go on up there. See,
right?
See.
He said they were gonna get Mike Pence.
Yeah. See. Because hey, look here. He talked about Mike Pence like that man had a tail. Yeah. Hey, look here. And they showed Pence's little troll butt, running down there in the halls. The cop was trying to get his behind out there. I said, no, Mike, don't run. What you running for? These are your people. Don't run. All they want to do is talk to you with that news.
I think I really would encourage everyone who's listening to like just take a Google or a TikTok search or Instagram search of Project 2025.
Oh, yes.
Because
yes,
it is very clear what the goals is of the right. If you look into that, and it's a long document, so of course you don't have time to read it all. Don't, because these are 1,000 pages. But if you can look into videos on Project 2025. That book was put out by a Republican organization years ago, like in the 90s sometime, and much of it is what's happening now.
Right. They're called the Heritage Group.
Yeah, not the 90s, but the 1900s. I think it was like 78 or 80 something that came out. But yeah, take a look at that, because a lot of what we're seeing is in that book, down to things about transgender folks and labeling teachers as sex offenders who show any content in school that has to do with the human body, calling it sexual pornography, very extreme things, even down to abortion, saying that that's not healthcare at the time of sexual intercourse. And that is when that is when the life begins. And that is what that book is saying. It's things like that. So it's very scary. And 2025 is not too far from here, if you know what I mean. So yeah, education is wealth. So definitely check that out.
Right. And along that point, don't forget what happened in Arizona, okay, where they enacted that law from pre-Civil War that is essentially outlawing abortion, period. Except maybe to save the life of the mother. That pre-Civil War law out there in Arizona that they brought back in. By the way, pre-Civil War, when women were not allowed to vote, and certainly no black man or woman was allowed to vote. Okay, so they're bringing in those laws that you had no say in. That two reasons, J. Love, you and Alexandria wouldn't have no say in at all. At least for me, it's one, but it's still a big one because I'm a man. I wouldn't have no say in it either. Okay, so we'd have just been left out, y'all. So if I would, I'd like to bring a circle now on the remainder of Trump's defenses. Okay.
Okay.
In the Constitution, in Article 1, it's what's called a speech and debate clause. Okay, and what that means is, if you're a governmental official, all right, and you're speaking like before Congress or before the Senate, what you say before the Congress or the Senate cannot be used against you in some kind of a civil or criminal proceeding, okay? And the reason for that is they want governmental officials, and the president certainly is a governmental official. For example, what the president says in a State of the Union, all right, that can't be used as a civil base to sue him or her, or criminal base. So what Donald Trump is saying is that, look, under that clause, I'm the president, and under speech and debate, whatever came out of my mouth, you can't use none of that against me. Well, once again, Allie raised a good point on mental fitness. Once again, that speech and debate clause only applies to governmental hearings, okay? Like addressing the State of the Union or making a presentation in front of Congress. It does not apply when you're on the telephone telling the Secretary of State of Georgia, look, man, find me 11,700 some odd votes. That's all I need you to do. That's not speech and debate. And also, just as an aside, speech and debate also precludes the police from stopping a congressman or a senator coming or going from Congress. So you can't be stopped and given a speeding ticket on your way to and from Congress. So that's what he's saying. And then, as I say, the final defense is, as I mentioned, he's saying, look, I've got to be impeached, convicted, and then you could possibly bring criminal charges against me. Seeing as how I've never been convicted, you cannot. And I've got absolute immunity because every word that came out of my mouth was official because I'm the president. The documents are declassified because I declassified them in my mind. Okay. So everything I say is official, nothing is private. That's the man's defenses. And that's basically it in a nutshell, y'all. I didn't mean to be long-winded with y'all, but it was a lot to cover.
So, Attorney Matt, why should we, I'm about to bring it back to us. Why is this important to us to pay attention to?
Well, because you have a serial rapist. Yes, he is. Okay. Although he hasn't been convicted. So, but being convicted in a court of law is different from being convicted in a court of public opinion. Okay. You and I as citizens have a right to believe what we want to believe. Okay. But we have a responsibility for an informed belief. And I'm just saying, me as a litigator, I do not believe E. Jean Carroll was lying. I do not believe Karen McDougal, although it was consensual, is lying. I do not believe that Stormy Daniels, porn star that she is, was lying. Because as a man, I've never known a man that paid a woman $130,000 not to have sex with him. Okay, excuse me, y'all. I'm sorry. So, okay, I've never known that. Maybe it is, maybe, but not in my world. Not in my world. Okay, so what I'm saying is the man has admitted to the public in 2016 You can walk up to these women. You can grab them where you want to grab them because you can. The man has admitted to philandering with married women. The man had a relationship with Stormy Daniels months after his wife had given birth to their child. So look, all I'm telling you is when I look at all these situations, and by the way, what about all the women Donald Trump said he was going to sue after he got elected president? Remember that? Remember that? Remember before the 2016 election, all them women was talking about how Donald Trump had abused them and stuff, and he said he was going to sue every last one of them. Did he?
They probably paid him all off to go away.
Yeah, yeah. Did he?
But this all speaks of his moral character.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at, like, is this the person you want to represent you? Well, but also, it's also a look at classism, because he has the money to make stuff go away. He has the money. Who has 130,000 this to give to someone to?
That's right.
That's right. Even, for the average working person, all of these advantages that he has, and then to top it off, to add absolute immunity to it.
That's true.
It's almost insane. It's like turning him into a dictator.
And J Love, if I can say this, part of the problem that we have is when we have Black people willing to give him cover. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with a sports analyst named Stephen A. Smith. Okay. He was on Sean Hannity's show and was saying that, you know what, Black people can relate to Donald Trump because he's being done wrong in the system just like they've been. And you know what? From that moment on, I said, I'm taking all of Stephen A. Smith's programming out of my database. Okay. Because he had the nerve to say Black people can relate to Donald Trump because he's being persecuted. And what Stephen A. Smith don't understand is there's a difference between being prosecuted and persecuted.
Right. How many Black people walking around with 88 indictments?
Yeah, and walking around. Look, there is a Black man in Florida, in Georgia, that is sitting in jail for about 1.5 years because he can't post bail, and he's in there no worse situation than Donald Trump is. This Black man can't post bail, but Donald Trump gets to walk around, no tether, by the way, no tether. Okay, so when Stephen A. Smith says that Black people should relate to Donald Trump, this is the man that said the Central Park Five should be executed. I want you to remember that.
Right.
Okay. Even after DNA had exonerated those men, he said they should be executed. Remember that, y'all. This is the man that had with his dad restrictive covenants where Black people trying to come to rent apartments and stuff, they would put a big C on the application, So these go to the end category right here. Okay. This is the man that made it real clear. Remember when the Black athletes were standing with Colin Kaepernick or kneeling with Colin Kaepernick, in terms of protesting systemic racism with the police? He referred to those Black men as sons of bitches. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And this is the same man who talked about keeping immigrants and mud people out of this country that came from shithole nations. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Okay. So what is this man telling you about you? And this is the man who said, if the election is stolen, watch Philadelphia. Who's he talking about? If the election is stolen, watch Wayne County. Who's he talking about? If the election is stolen in Milwaukee, in Wisconsin, watch Milwaukee. Who's he talking about? If the election is stolen in Georgia, watch Atlanta. Who is he talking about?
Right.
Dog whistles.
Oh my God. So yeah. So I can only hope the Supreme Court will do the right thing and say, you know what, Mr. Trump, you do not have absolute immunity on criminal matters. Because if we give that to you, every president after you is going to be able to say, I can order SEAL Team 6 to shoot one of my opponents. go on national TV and say, yeah, I told him to do it, so what? Okay.
Like a dictator.
Right. And oh, by the way, the man said he wanted to be dictator, but only for a day. Okay. Hey, Allie, I'll give you all $1 million. Tell me one dictator that gave up the shit after one day. Just tell me.
None.
Tell me Big Daddy Idi Amin, silence. Tell me Muammar Gaddafi, silence. Tell me Pol Pot, silence. Tell me Vladimir Putin, silence, etc., etc., etc.
Didn't Putin have somebody killed?
Of course he did. Poison that man.
Yeah.
Of course he did. Poison that man. Yeah. So
I'm just saying, you know.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, there we are. So hey, look, y'all, I'm gonna be quiet and let y'all talk. I've talked quite enough, but I love you.
I'll say this is just more reason why I encourage folks to look locally in terms of our so-called democracy and our elected officials and who serves us in general, because on a federal level it's less stable. That's how I put it. It's not stable, and to become more stable, we're going to need to look local, starting with our backyard and then pushing outward. There are tons of folks, from mayor, from council members, from commissioners to the judges of districts in our areas, and they go unnoticed. And it's time to start encouraging some people to hold them accountable, to start looking into the ordinances in these cities, and to start, coming to these city meetings. They work for us. Our tax dollars go to them. Like let's not forget that. That never changed. That hasn't changed. They should be in contact with us regularly as far as I'm concerned. So it's time to make them do their job.
Right. And then when you don't have any oversight, they do whatever they want. They get away. And so if you're not voting and putting people in who represent what you feel that is important to you, then you have all these people who are doing whatever, right? And so if this is happening on a local level, on a federal level, it's off the chain. And that's why this man can sit up here and say, hey, I want absolute immunity. I want to be able to go in here and do whatever I want to do, and nobody can hold me accountable because I'm the president. And that's not what it's about. Like, you be able to go in here and do whatever you want to do. You're not doing whatever you want to do for the people. You're doing whatever you want to do for yourself.
Right.
To make, so you could create the narrative and have all these people, like you've been saying all through the night, all the people who are just, hush people, or they do whatever he wants them to do. Yeah. So we had to really, you're right, Allie, we had to really focus locally and expand, because a lot of us don't pay attention until the presidential election. Right. But then your local people are off the chain, doing whatever, and you can't get nothing done.
There's why is it that even our state Supreme Courts, they get to sit as justices for a very long time? I know Michigan is 8 years and then they have to rerun. But the maximum for them they could stay running for re-election till they like 75. And it's different across state. That's just one example. Another example is term limits. There's some cities that have no term limits. So you could be someone with all this power. You've been in the community a long time. So a lot of people know your name. You got the money. You are older, likely to win, right? That blocks the way for anyone new to come in and to make a change.
That's true.
Warren, for example, I believe, they got term limits, or their mayor last year, the person running for re-election for mayor tried to overturn the term limits. That had went to the Michigan Supreme Court. It didn't go anywhere because they said no. But he was in favor of taking away term limits because he wanted to run again.
Right.
So this is why we need to be in a room.
He had been a mayor forever.
And this is what's on the ballot. Term limits. These are things that are on our ballots, like mental health related items. They're on the ballot. An oversight commission full of community members and
Yeah.
policy analysts, not people of the legal system, because that to me is unfair. That's not representative of the community. That kind of stuff can be on a ballot. You can do it a ballot initiative. There's ways to hold them accountable. We just have to start asking for it.
Right.
Right. Oh, and you know, if I could just say these two things about the president, just so people know, because it's become a big political issue now. The president has also got the authority to issue executive orders, okay, which are orders to federal. He can't executive order state, but federal, like federal people who do business with federal contractors. Contract do business with the federal government. Okay, he can issue executive orders to them. He tried to issue, the president, to his credit, tried to issue an executive order about those student loans. Remember that? You know,
Yeah.
ordering the Secretary of Health and Secretary of Education to start forgiving some of those student loans. And remember, Republicans took him to court and blocked it. Remember all that? So that's a power the president has to issue executive orders. I think the most famous executive order was from 1862, the Emancipation Proclamation. That was not a congressional law. That was an executive order from President Lincoln. So he's got the authority to issue, or she, executive orders. And the reason that part of that's become political is because they're trying to blame President Biden for what they say is a crisis at the border. I'm not sure there is a crisis at the border per se. But in any event, there's only so much a president can do with an executive order. Congress is really the one that's got the authority to make changes in terms of immigration law. And it's so interesting, the game that some of the Republicans play. On one hand, they talk about Congress has got to be a check and balance on the president. But when the Republicans got a chance to vote on a law that tightens up the border, they refuse to do it because they want to help Donald Trump in the election and have this image of these people streaming over the border and Biden is not doing anything about it. So it's a two-edged sword. They're trying to corner Biden. And so anyway, executive orders are one of the powers the president has exclusively.
I find a good way to help understand some of that stuff too is like if thinking about like your because it's all connected. So like the city and the county all the way to the state, they all have their own bodies of politicians that do certain things. And you think about our mayor, not the mayor, but the Governor Whitmer here in Michigan, like she can do executive orders. And so it's the same thing. She can also, I think she has a power to exonerate people too. Like,
she can. For example, somebody that's doing a life sentence without parole.
Yeah, someone with mental health issues, like, and they're not supposed to be there.
She's got the ability to let them out.
She got it's a certain amount. I know they can do each term or whatever. That's not exercised enough to me, but from her. But she can do that, and goes even further up. I mean, if we go on a federal level, they can do that too. So that's one way to help understand it. On a county level, it's a little different because with county, you have county commission, and then you have the county executives, and then you have committees. So that's a little different, but each commissioner is over a specific district of the county. So it could be like 5 cities within that county that they're responsible for, another commissioner responsible for another 5, so that it goes from there. But if you want to, one way, if you're really trying to tap into federal, if you really have that urge to just make change on that level, talk to your U.S. representative for your state. That's the closest line you're going to have to doing that for your district, because they're at the Capitol regularly.
Right.
They report from
and they have local offices that you can connect with them.
Yep. Like I know from example, me, 12th district, representative is who's over me, and that's Rashida Tlaib.
Right.
That's the closest person to a federal level I'm gonna get. And if I want some answers on that level, that's who I should go to and try to pursue to get some resolution somewhere.
Yeah.
But if you don't know, you can look these things up online. It's just, we just have to start doing it ourselves. Ain't nobody gonna save us. They ain't gonna do it for us.
Right.
We clearly see that with how Trump is doing, how Biden's not doing enough. We see that. So it's on us.
Right. Nobody's coming to save us.
Right.
I had this video that's on a funny to explain absolute immunity.
Yo, is it cool if I frame you for murder? Nah, bro. Oh, okay. Well, I gotta convict someone. That's how I get promoted. So I'm just gonna say it was you. You can check the DNA evidence. I didn't. Oh yeah, we're just gonna hide this. That's illegal. I could sue you for that, right? No, actually, you're not allowed. What do you mean? I mean, they made a rule that you cannot sue me for any misconduct. Because if you could sue me, then I'd have to keep second guessing myself. You mean doing your job legally? Yeah. Who made this rule? Oh, that guy. Yo, what's up? Wait, that's just you again. Yeah, I told you, bro, this is how I get promoted. Once I'm up here, I'm not going to change the rules to hold myself accountable. Give me that. Is there anyone who can hold them accountable? I mean, there's like those guys. What's up? Okay, so that's just the same. They're in the same line of work. We rarely help. So you're just going to put me on death row for your own personal gain. Oh, no, I'm not. I am actually. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So basically, this was like the prosecutor, right? And then now the prosecutor is the judge. So the judge is not going to go against himself, and then the other only people who can hold him accountable, they said that's the bar association, but that's all of them too. Basically what he's saying. So. Hey, you don't have a chance. And so again, there goes the conversation about oversight and accountability. Because with this absolute immunity, we're seeing is getting in the way, and we have all the same players that we trying to, get some legal help from, or, they're all in the same group. So do you really think they're helping you, or they're going to look out for each other?
Look. J Love. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Allie. I'm sorry.
No, I just really wish, I honestly, I wish we had ranked choice voting. It would make more sense to stop this stuff. We get these same two people all the time, or these same people with this power and money and connections on the ballot, or on even local. We see that sometimes. We see that,
right?
And it's if we had that would allow an opportunity for multiple Democratic candidates and multiple Republican candidates at one time on the same ballot, and that would allow for more people in, regardless of if you make it to the primary, you make it to the last stop. No, no. And it's only 2 states that do that, by the way, ranked choice voting. I want to say Oregon, and Vermont definitely do it. And I think Maine, but yeah, it's if I feel like that's the only way forward, because that video is so right. It's the same people in different places. It's I always say I wish I had more of me so I can get shit done that need to be done in the world. And that's a clear example. They don't have more, they just got the power and the connections. Maybe I need some of
that. Yeah. So, but look, y'all have to forgive me, because, in my line of work, okay, these 40 some odd years on both sides of the courtroom and bar, I might add, I've seen my share of pimps, y'all. No, I have, really, seriously. And I'm not proud of it. Defended a whole bunch of them. But I just have to tell you all the truth. I'm sorry, I keep laughing, but I can't help it. There is one man far and above any pimp that I've ever represented in life. Any pimp, okay, that is so grandiose, not just state, not just federal, but international. The man is an international pimp. And so what I'm saying is how this man has got the nerve. You know, I remember back in the day, there was a movie called The Mac, right? I'm kind of got an affinity to that, right? Okay. A guy named Max Julian played Goldie, right? And Goldie was a pimp, right? You know, he was a pimp. Okay. Okay. I know I'm dating myself, but hey, J Love, don't pretend like you don't know what I'm talking about, J Love. Don't pretend.
I seen that picture before. I mean, Goldie. I know who you're talking about. Max Julian.
Right. You know, and part of it, you know, and part of the mantra in the movie was like, Goldie, Goldie, Goldie. But Goldie couldn't hold a candle to Donald Trump. This man has got like 45% of the people in this country. 45% of the people in this country as stone cold, I don't want to say it, start with an H and end with an S, okay, stone cold, because he's telling them, I'm going to do what I want, I'm going to do it when I want to do it, and I'm going to do it in front of you, and you ain't going to get within 1,000 feet of me. You can buy these silly ass hats, you can buy some of these gold gym shoes, mud people.
Bible.
Yeah. You can buy the Bible where he's like putting his chapters in the Bible. You know. At least Thomas Jefferson had the nerve to take shit out the Bible. You know, Trump is adding stuff into the Bible. You know, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. Okay, but anyway, or and what is it? The Constitution? What else was it? Is it the
Bill of Rights? Yeah.
Okay, something like that. But anyway, so all I'm saying is this man is over 75 million people, y'all. He's telling them to their face, and they saying okay. I've never seen a pimp of such a level before. I've never seen it, really, and I'm ashamed to see it now, in all honesty. And so, y'all are educated women. Tell me, how is it possible, Allie? Honestly, how is it possible for me to tell you I'm going to keep on abusing women? I don't care about women. I'm going to objectify women. I don't care about you poor people. The poorest states in the nation, like Mississippi and them, I'm not giving y'all nothing extra. I'm not doing shit for you. But you're going to vote for me anyway. How is that? You know?
It's a reflection of what's going on in our society anyway. Women at all levels are being, objectified and harassed and in different systems and different agencies all across America. So that's normalized. Everything he's doing, people are doing on a lower level. So he's just, like he's a magnet to how they kind of feel when you say 45% of the people are like, is want to vote for him. This is what it is, Attorney Matt, on that level of people just like, hey, they want to be him. Someone want to be him.
It's like a bunch of people okay with sacrificing themselves. It is what I get from that, and it doesn't surprise me, only because when you think about the alignment white women have had throughout history, you look at like the feminist movements and things like that, and where they fall. You look at the election with Trump and originally, and how much they voted for him. Even his attempt for re-election, they turned out numbers.
That's true.
So it's like blind loyalty, regardless of the person in the seat for the presidency. And I don't think that's something we will ever understand as Black people.
Yeah, because look how when he ran against Obama, all the racist things that he did, he was talking about how he wasn't born here and blah, blah, blah. He was just really like ridiculous, right? But he had a group of people that believed everything he said. They was like demanding this man birth certificate. They was really. So when I say, he could say these things, it's because there's on some level, there are people who believe these things that he's saying because they reflect the same mindset. So for, on a
It's
smaller,
gonna
lower
make America
level.
great again. That's what the idea
For
of make it great again is.
right.
Yeah. So, wow. Yeah.
You're right, Allie. Sheep.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're sheep. I'll say, I know I'm a leader. I'm not a follower. Never have
Exactly.
been. And we need more leaders here. We need more leaders to show their true colors and not hold back. Because we see who's not holding back. So are you
Right.
gonna get left behind?
That's true.
We can't be distracted. I'm saying we'll be on these things this week, and then next week, the big thing, like you got 300,000 people downtown, hey, football,
Yeah.
and they all,
Yeah.
There's got to be people. There's got to be people that turn those moments into moments that benefit the movement.
Yeah.
I saw a clip the other day of this young girl. Her Instagram is Little Miss Flint, and she's an activist that talks about the Flint water crisis. The time in pop culture where it was like what Nicki Minaj and Megan Thee Stallion were like going back and forth. It was all over social media. She used that to bring awareness to what was happening in Flint.
Right.
We have to be strategic and mobilize, not just on the ground, but on the internet too. And I don't want it to get to the election for us or post-election when we're all disappointed and the show out and who wins. That's when we start to do it. That's late.
Yeah, that's late.
It has to be now.
Right.
Right. And that's why it's important for us to have these conversations, because when we're talking about electing judges and stuff like that, those things affect you locally, And when we're talking about fighting for, wrongful convictions and exonerations and stuff, if you're distracted, if you're not doing your due diligence, then you're voting for somebody who's going to be totally against you.
True.
We were talking about even at the at Oakland University, one of the students brought up about the prosecutor in Oakland County. And for years, she was just totally against them. She was like Kim Worthy to the 10th power. And so they organized and they talked about it. They organized and they got that lady out of there. Everybody did what they had to do and they got her out of there, right? And this is what we have to do. We have to pay attention. We have to organize. We have to have conversations, even if the conversations is here or on this platform or whatever, to have these conversations to enlighten us, to not be the sheeps. And to, get out here and vote for people who are really about that business of taking care of you and your community.
That's true. That's true.
And not the ones that just pop up at election time. Like you don't even see these folks until it's time to vote. And then they all in your face. Oh, you can't even go nowhere. Here they are all over the place because they want your vote. But then what have they been doing for you? It's what you should. What have you done for me lately? How you been doing? We got all this stuff going on. Where you at? But they, how many millions did they spend downtown this week? The NFL brought into this city that could have been going towards a whole lot of stuff. How much money are they gonna, give to community organizations or to help out different agencies? Or are they gonna just make all their profit and leave us for the cleanup?
Yeah.
That's why I have frustration with the press on Detroit sometimes. It's like we want to hype it up and say, oh, the draft is the best here. But then down the city for so many things that it tries to do. It's like, which is it? And it's like, I love the city and it's accomplished. Detroit has come so many ways. And I just wish so much more of that money I hope that money that's being poured into it now for these projects and all these things happening, go to the community, go to some of this vacant land and maybe some affordable housing for the homeless population.
Yeah. Right.
Like maybe more violence, community violence interventions that's rooted in public health and not the legal system. Because what they was doing now, that stopper program, that's not all over Detroit. That's certain key areas. The rest ain't getting that. So like, what about expanding that? So I hope that, all that traffic and people there, some of that money goes to these things, because they love to try to follow us and police our cities where there's Black people.
Right. And then I know me and Revertia had a conversation. I was like, we're gonna all be pouring down there, and some of us gonna need to call the Freedom Line, because they when this is all done this weekend, they ain't gonna be playing with you. They got everybody down there. You gonna have to walk straight up, or you gonna be needing to. What's the Freedom Line number?
Hey, 734-239-3118. Hey, look here, AJ Love. Don't make me get T-shirts now. Don't make me get T-shirts.
I'm just saying. While we running down here, what are they bringing back to you? Bringing you nothing. But you running down there pouring your paychecks, trying to hang out with these folks.
Right.
And on the way home, you might need the Freedom Line phone number.
That's right.
Hey.
Amen. That's right.
So, anywho, you guys. Thank you, Attorney Mack and Allie and Revertia. This was a great conversation. We needed to have it. We're going to have more, because we got to educate our community closer it gets to this election.
That's right.
So we won't be bamboozled to be thinking Donald Trump is related to us because he got 88 indictments. No, he is not. He is not relating to you. He ain't paid no bail. He ain't got no nothing on his ankle, and he can go all over the United States to do whatever you want. They done told him to be quiet and quit talking, and he's still talking.
That's right.
So,
that's right.
All the things that he can do, you cannot do.
That's right.
So just don't be fooled by these narratives that they trying to throw out, because at the end of the day, it's not about you. So thank you, Attorney Matt. Thank you, Allie. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We'll be back next week, turning a moment into a movement.
Stay blessed, y'all.
Yes. Good night.
Night.
you.